All right, well, I started the camera a little later today because we actually met someone, which is pretty mind-blowing. They were just around the corner and Drake like freaked out. And I was like, what the hell is going on? And then I saw a lady with two dogs, coming around the corner. And one was without a leash and one was on the leash. And they immediately went for Drake and like were super curious and sniffed him out and all that. And Drake was depends. Drake likes some dogs and he wants to play with them, but he's kind of anxious about most dogs, and especially if they're like too fast and too like if they invade his personal space like immediately and they go in and they just start to sniff his like crotch and all that, then he's like he feels like very uncomfortable, and you can see him like he drops his tail and he's all like perked up, and he's just in a sort of a frozen state, and sometimes he lashes out to kind of drive the invader away, but he didn't do it this time. He was just like standing there frozen, and clearly highly uncomfortable while they were checking him out and sniffing him out. And but it was okay, no conflict really, and the lady was cool. Yeah, she was. I was like, oh my, is that some crazy dog owner, or something? Because when someone's got a dog on a leash and the dog's like pulling a lot and all that, I'm always like, it's gonna be something problematic. Not because of the dogs, mostly it's a problem because of the people, really. Because they create the tension and they create the sort of thing that sets the dogs off, and then there's like unnecessary drama. It happens so many times, and it's most of the time what I see is most of the time it is the fault of the people. They kind of edge the dogs out and they sort of sow stress into them, and I just don't know. I think it's mostly what causes these problems. When you have a dog, there's one is on a leash and one is not, or both are on a leash. Then there's just like this like sort of there's this like energy and aggression, and everything is suppressed, and it's just like if they would run free, either they would play together or maybe not. They would just like sort of growl at each other, and they would say, okay, we don't like each other. They would, I don't know, chase one another away, and that would be the end of it, Of course, you have dogs that are highly aggressive and they could hurt the other dog, but I think that's rather rare. I think most of the time you can just let the dog sort it out for themselves, and they'll know, hey, they'll be either friends or they won't, and you just move on. But people are so anxious about like not letting their dogs close to another, and they're like this and they're like that. I've seen so many times how beautifully it worked out, even with such a I would say Drake. I say Drake, social wise, is not a very easy dog, like when it comes to like dog on dog play. But even with Drake, I've seen so many times how beautifully it worked out if you just let your dogs run free. And in the beginning there might be something that might look sort of vicious and aggressive, and you might think, oh well, they'll hurt themselves, but that's just the way they do things. That's the way they communicate. Growl or snap or anything like that doesn't mean I want to kill you. It doesn't mean I want to hurt you. It just means I don't like you being this close. Go away, or go like take your distance or something, And it doesn't have to mean, most of the time it doesn't mean I want to hurt you or I want to kill you. It just looks aggressive and it looks kind of vicious, but that's the way what they do. Because that's the only way they can communicate. They don't have words, like we do. We don't have language. This is their language, So I was always very open when it comes to that, and I never was anxious when a dog ran up to Drake. I don't recall feeling fear for Drake, you know, and being anxious. I know Drake wouldn't hurt any dog. Like, I know he's not the type of dog that would hurt other dogs. And I just trust the process. I trust that, you know, the animals know what they're doing, and they don't want to hurt each other either, you know. They just want to check them out, check each other out, sort of measure each other and sort of be like, you know, are we friends? Are we foes? And if we're foes, then we're just gonna bark at each other or growl at each other, and that's the end of it, you know. So I don't know, I always trusted the process, and I was never I was never anxious about Drake being potentially hurt or something. Even if the dog, because it happened that, I don't know who started it. I don't know if Drake made the move or the other dog. There was a fight, you know, and they were snapping at each other and sort of taking each other by the coat and all that. I still kept cool, because I know, okay, now they're in a scuffle, but it's not, you know, like, you would know if there is a dog that wants to kill, and it looks definitely differently than this, you know. These are, I think, dogs tend to bluff a lot, you know, with all those bared teeth and all that, and the snapping. I've seen and experienced probably, I don't know, 2 or 3 fights, and there was never a drop of blood in any of those. Of course, we separated them when that happened, but nothing ever happened, you know. And, you know, oh, there's this cinnamon smell. Oh, that's beautiful after the rain. Oh, wow. You know, sure, we separated them. Man, the smell. You know, it also smells a little bit like cardamom, I think. Wow, man, that is just mind-blowing. I wish you could smell this. It's just, oh my God, it's just, it's absolutely incredible. I love nothing. Wow, nothing can surpass this smell, man. This is just, oh, wow. That's just, oh my God, that is just amazing, man. The smell, the scent is just delicious, really. It's incredible. Anyway, yeah, there was never a drop of blood. And I remember my first dog way back, I mean, like 12 years, like, yeah, actually 12 years, more than 12 years back, 13 years back. I had a puppy, Rhodesian Ridgeback, which was mixed with mother breed. And he was like super sort of playful, and he was like very sort of, his way of thinking was like everybody wants to play. That was his sort of nature. And there were, of course, dogs that didn't want to play, just like Drake, you know. I imagine if they two would meet, I'm sure Drake would totally be like very sort of angry, you know, like I don't know, maybe he would play because he likes puppies actually, so who knows. But he was the type of dog that would always want to play with everyone, humans, animals, doesn't matter. And that one time he wanted to play with he came to a, I don't know, it was some bulldog or something, I don't know, and he wanted to play. And the dog immediately, he didn't make a sound, you know. He was completely, there was no barking, no nothing, no announcements, nothing. And he just bit him, one single bite. And he bit him without a sound into, I think it was his ear. And he actually bit through it. And he had a blood, you know, dripping off of it. And he was like, remember, he was like, huh, like he was, I would say, I don't know if he was shocked. I think he was like surprised. But he just went on, you know, and he didn't play with him, and he didn't even remember that it happened, you know. And it was like blood dripping from his ear. And I don't even remember my reaction, but I don't think I was angry at the dog. I was more like, you know, you know, you can't really expect everyone's going to want to play with you, you know? I mean, that's just how it works. It's like, of course, there are friends, but there are also like not so friendly dogs that just want to have their peace and they don't want anyone to approach them. And that was one of the cases. So, you know, but even then I don't recall being anxious or like, I don't know, being angry at the dog or the owner or something. I don't recall doing that really. Anyway, it was just a bit of a memory. But yeah, I think dogs can sort themselves out really. And I think we should be there as a supervisors. Obviously, we can't just let things happen, you know. When there is a fight, it's good to separate them, of course. If it gets too sort of intense and you see that they're not getting they're not getting apart anytime soon, then of course it's good to step in. If you see it's that kind of a more aggressive fight than more of a playful fight. So we are there as a supervisors, but I think as a dog owners and sort of the supervisors, we should bring in sort of grounded, cool-headed, sort of like, I don't know, wisdom. I want to say wisdom. I know it sounds cheesy and funny, but I mean, you know, like we should bring in sort of like very grounded and relaxed sort of presence into the whole thing, because I think the dogs are definitely picking off our emotions, and especially, you know, like if we're like if you're bonded with your dog a lot and you bring in fear and anxiety and anger, you know, then the dog's gonna reflect that, and then the other dog's gonna reflect that, and then it creates this whole, you know, creates this whole mixture when people are shouting, the dogs are fighting, you know, and it just doesn't work, you know. So what we need to bring in, I think, is groundedness and, you know, just relax. Of course, there are situations which can be risky, and there are situations when dogs are aggressive and they can hurt your dog. I'm not saying that can never happen, but I'm saying it's rare, and that most of the time the dogs will sort itself out. And if you relax and just let them do their thing, you would be surprised. I've seen so many dogs that were not let go, were not let free. They were on a leash, and I saw they would totally go and play, you know, they would totally do that, but the owner didn't let them to. And they would play, but eventually it just led to a frustration and they started being aggressive, you know. So from that initial I want to play, it began, you know, get away from me, because, you know, of course, if you're not letting me go and I cannot play, then just go away, because I don't want to, you know, be on the leash here being strangled by my owner, you know. So I don't know, my philosophy, and, you know, take it with a grain of salt, you know, because I'm not a dog expert, you know. I'm not expert of dog behavior, and I'm not anything really. So take it with a grain of salt. But my philosophy is, depending on your dog, of course, and its character, because that's also a big factor, you know. Like, I'm not saying all the dogs are, you know, supposed to be, you know, totally let go and so that they can run free and they, you know, do their own thing. I believe there are breeds that are not suitable for that, you know, because they're just too wild, they're too big, too instinctive, you know. I don't know. I'm just, you know, dog is he's just a very obsessive tracker. So when it comes to tracking animals, that's, you know, sort of a problematic part when it comes to rabbits. And, you know, I already talked about this. But other than that, he's harmless, you know. He's just curious, he's anxious sometimes. He wouldn't hurt anyone, he wouldn't hurt anything, not a dog at all that. So it's easy for me to say, you know, just let the dog run free, let him do his thing. They will sort themselves out. But that's just my philosophy, you know. And I believe I would doing this similar thing with my first dog. And it was just more complicated because we lived in I lived in a city. I still lived in the capital, and there were so many people and so many classic dog owners that were super anxious, and it was a bit of a nightmare in that regard. But Draco, pojď tady. Nah, he's going somewhere else. I think he's tracking the dogs we met. Anyways, I'm gonna finish really quick. I'm just gonna say this is my philosophy, and I'm not the only one who thinks that. We met. I think I met once or twice someone who was, you know, more into dogs, and he had exactly the same sort of philosophy, you know, and yeah, it's, you know, the dogs will sort itself out, you know. They have a specific language that we might not understand. Sometimes it might look weird and aggressive. Oh, son of a bitch. So it wasn't a dog that he was tracking. See, I'm just talking about him. He found something, yeah. And frankly, I don't know if I'm gonna run after him, because I mean, just hope it was up the hill. I'm just hoping that whatever it was, it got away, because he's slow uphill. I mean, more slow than usual, obviously. So I'm just hoping it got away. Oh God! And given the barking, it was probably a rabbit. Yeah, so, you know, yeah, that's the only problematic part when it comes to Drake. Oh, there's a roe deer. So, but he never barks on a roe deer unless it's like sick or injured. Oh, I think I hear him. Yeah, he's not barking anymore though, and the roe deer's over there, so let's hope that was the case. I might follow him. I don't know, man. I don't know. Anyway, I'm gonna finish here. I'm just gonna say that's my philosophy, that the dogs will sort itself out. And if you can, I think it's ideal to bring into the mixture, you know, cool-headedness, groundedness, and sort of peace, you know, if you can. Because most of the time I see stress, I see anxiety, I see fear, and I see aggression and anger. And that never brings in anything good into the whole mixture, and the dogs will reflect it, and they will be more anxious, more angry, more sort of pumped up, more on edge, you know, because if you're on edge, they will be, you know. So that's just something I don't know, found out, discovered, witnessed, experienced, and that is my philosophy, and that's how I'm gonna end this video. And I just didn't finish it. It was a lady with 2 dogs, and she was really cool. I was thinking like, oh, interesting. I've never seen that person here. But yeah, she seemed cool. She seemed like we could be friends. So I don't know. Maybe we'll meet her again, or maybe not. It's usually the case when you meet someone here. Sorry. No, I don't hear him. When you meet someone here, you meet that person for the first time, probably most of the time for the last time. You just never see that person again. It happened to me several times. But yeah, I always like someone who like is not an anxious dog owner, and they're like chill, and this lady was exactly that way, you know. So it was like, oh yeah. And she was roughly, I felt like she was roughly around like, I don't know, 30s, you know, around our age. So I was thinking, oh well, she could be our friend, because she seemed cool. So yeah, maybe we're gonna meet again, who knows. But it was a cool encounter. Anyways, I'm gonna go find Drake, I guess, and I'm gonna sign off now. So see, I found Drake, and just look at this. Look at this. look at Riku, check it. Look at this. Where the hell have you been, man? Look at the guy. Good boy. Look at him. Like when he came, I was like, what the hell? What the hell he's got on him? So, you know, I found him, fortunately. Deku, check here. And You know, he was after, I found out what he was after because I saw it. Unfortunately, he didn't see it. So he was after a fawn. There was a small roe deer. And it was hidden, it was lying low, and I spooked it. And it was running uphill. So I was like, oh shit, that's definitely what Drake was after. And then it got somewhere on top of that hill and away, and then I saw Drake, and now I got him here. So fortunately he missed it, but that's not really good news, as there are small fawns around here. But I believe it was quite large, so you know, fast enough to escape Drake. It wasn't really tiny fawn. I would say it was like, you know, half the size of a normal roe deer. So yeah, that was what Drake was after, and I'm gonna have to keep a more close eye on him these days, I suppose. But you know, fortunately, again, as I was saying, you know, Drake is not fast enough to catch a healthy animal, whether it's a fawn or whether it's a rabbit. If it's a healthy animal, he's not able to catch up to him, especially not uphill, you know, with his 3 legs and over all these you know, branches and tree trunks and all that. So yeah, anyways, it's good news and happy ending. I found Drake, and everything's fine, and the fawn is safe. It ran up there. I think I'm gonna grab Drake and I'm gonna carry him over the track so that he doesn't catch a whiff of this fawn, and we're gonna continue back home. But I mean, look at Drake, it's funny. look at his face. Draco? Draco? Look at his face. Oh, that's sweet. That's really cute. See, that's how he hates flies. See that? Yeah, that's how he hates flies. And he's also pretty exhausted, I think. As usual, when he chases something, he's absolutely drained. Because he's running like a freaking madman uphill across all this, you know, so obviously. Look at him hate flies. Look at that. Anyways, yeah, that was just a bonus ending to this video. So I'm signing off now, for real.